Hello, everybody who's joining me live. It's good to see you. Good to be here with you. When I had a message this morning from the universe to talk about one of my favorite subjects, which is confusion, I thought, I can't even figure out whether I should take a shower or not. And I'm actually having a hard time figuring out or making choices about very simple things. I'm hungry. Well, what should I eat? I don't know. Nothing seems really good, but I know what I should be eating, but I'm not sure that I really want that. And all the noise just keeps starting. And those are tiny decisions in my life. But you can get so muddled up in these that the big decisions tend to be really overwhelming and can get seriously in the way of living a life and going for things and doing things. We can get actually paralyzed. We can fall into the illusion that there's actually a right choice to make, where often there's not, even in very serious situations. So this is something that affects us all. Seeking clarity is something that can be really frustrating and very, very elusive. So let's close our eyes a moment and drop in. And let's see what might be coming in for us as we enter the zone together. A beautiful zone of receiving, of connecting. So as you breathe, take some deep breaths, feel yourself connecting with spirit, with all the universal forces that are at play in your own life. And there are many, more than our conscious minds at this stage of development, of evolvement, can possibly grasp. And let go of any angst or anxiety you might be feeling from your day. Just kind of come here with me for these few minutes of time. Let's see what wants to come in for us about the subject, the existence of confusion. I have this funny image of how long confusion has been part of the human experience. The vision that I had is a cave person, in this case it was a caveman, and he was walking into his cave, and then he walked out and he looked at the stars, but then he thought, no, I should be inside the cave, so he goes in the cave, and then it's all dark and he sits there, and he just sits there thinking he should be in the cave, and he's completely unsettled. So he goes out and he stands under the stars again. And the strangest thing begins to happen to this caveman. It wasn't right or wrong. It wasn't better to be sitting in his cave or to be out under the stars. But he just decided. And he went out and he went under the stars and he spread his arms out and he looked up at all those twinkling lights in the sky. And he felt something twinkling directly back at him. And he had a knowing that, yes, indeed, this was the exact right moment for him to be here in some sort of communication with whatever it was in this very early primeval existence of humanoids. That was my vision. I love it. I'm going to try to keep it because so often I feel like that caveman. I feel like that. Do I sit in the dark? Do I go out in the light? What am I meant to do? I search. I ask Spirit, will you guide me? Will you tell me what to do? Will you, please, I have no clarity. All I get is crickets. And then I get mad. And then I feel abandoned, maybe. But the reason that I'm not getting an answer is what I meant to try to bring out today. So, more breathing, more releasing. We all know what it's like to be in that noise machine of confusion, especially when it's an important thing that we have to decide on. Am I meant to stay in a relationship, or am I meant to go? That's a big deal. Am I meant to put my child in a private school or keep them in a public school? So we'll call all our friends and acquaintances, we'll interview the schools, we will get information, we will read, we will try to find out and be informed. And still the noise machine rages at us, and we get no firm decision. One day we think, oh yeah, private school, even though I can't really afford it, but it would be a good thing. Another day it's, oh, public school, wow, she'll be around many types of people in many socioeconomic groups. Yeah, that feels right. We go to bed on it, we go to sleep on it, and both of those decisions seem equally right and equally wrong. And what do we do? How do we thread our way through these things? It can be a tiny thing like what to wear. And we could put on, I don't know if this is your experience or not, but at times of a chaotic mind, we can put on something and change it 10 times. And each time sink a little deeper into the sticky jelly of nothing feels right. Nothing feels right. See for a minute what that feels like in your body. It's like you're walking through a purgatory where everything is possible, but nothing is right. We can start getting feelings of extreme insecurity. Like, I am not able to make these important decisions. And we'll maybe try to find somebody who can guide us or even make the decision for us. I've worked with people that are incapable of even making a small decision. Sorry, I don't know why that's on. I've worked with people that are even incapable of making a tiny decision, who are not really able to be present enough to think something all the way through. There's just so much noise, especially in certain areas of life. If you are experiencing that, or if you know somebody who's always calling you for advice, or if you yourself feel like you always need to reach out and ask 10 people, or at least one person, what do you think? And then that person is saddled with your decision. What do you do with this? How do you quiet the noise? So look at it this way. We all have patterns in us of behavior, of thinking, of being. This pattern behavior is conditioned into us, usually supported by some kind of fear. So our patterns, the redundant things that just keep playing over and over and over again in our lives. patterns of behavior of all kinds. Some are good. Most of them are limiting to us. These patterns, when we try to think our way through them, they will throw up a noise machine of confusion. Because those patterns are trying to protect us from doing anything so that they can keep us safe. So they'll keep us safe by strangling us out of our lives, but at least we're safe. At least we're not moving out into unknown territories. At least we're not taking chances that might cause us to have to process something big. The patterns are trying to keep us from doing that. I hope that makes sense. It's actually a protective screen, confusion. So how do we get past it? The confusion kind of vibrates up here. And it's got all kinds of messages. I don't know, I can't do this. It's like, I can't figure it out. Nothing makes sense. I don't want to think about this right now. I'll just let it wind out and see how it wants to go. And of course, when we do that, we go nowhere fast. Or we can make a very bad decision based on fear. And usually that is a limiting decision. I guess an example of that would be you get kind of an inspiration. I'm gonna take art classes. I'm gonna learn how to do art. I'm gonna learn how to do sculpture. You get very inspired, you get excited. You start checking the internet for possible places. And as you start checking, as you start seeing what's available, your pattern, which is based on fear and wants to keep you safe, will start finding fault with all those things. This is too expensive. I don't have the time and money, the two things. I don't think I really have any talent for this, and maybe I'm not really that interested in it in the first place. And pretty soon, we go into a spiral. And chances are, we will put that aside as a dream for later. And it's a very sad thing. When you think of all those dreams, all those inspirations that perhaps you have put aside for later and not acted on because the noise machine kind of talked you out of it, took away your options. So how do you deal with this? Well, the reason this is coming up as a spiritual practice is because climbing out of the noise machine really means a process of surrender. And surrender has to do very much with a spiritual connection to life and to the living of it. In that way, the choice that we make is not as important as making a choice in the first place. And then seeing that choice all the way through to as far as it's meant to go. That might mean taking 1 year of art classes and getting your skills up and being able to really enjoy the process of creating things. Or it also might mean devoting your life to it, becoming an artist. It could be anywhere in between all of that. But surrendering to a path is a spiritual experience in many ways. It's saying to the universe, look, I want to answer. to something bigger than myself here. I want to surrender my small mind that's always trying to figure things out and be right about things, and my mind that's always scared of making a mistake and making a wrong decision. I want to surrender that, universe. I would like to follow this inspiration. So going back to the example of the parent trying to decide between private and public school, here is the quandary, or here is the inquiry, not of which is better, because they both have pros and they both have cons, but rather what feels more inspiring to me and perhaps to my child, depending how old they are. What feels like it has light around it, and what feels like it's sticky and being brought up by my fear because it costs less money, or it's something like that. We would feel the shadow a little bit around the one choice, and we would, if we relax and breathe and surrender to the process of it, we will begin to see some light around one of those possibilities. It may never feel 100% right, because the feeling body is often based on fear, often holds a lot of fear. So it may not ever feel 100% right. The big things that we choose often don't. The reason that I am doing what I'm doing right now isn't because I had to swim through, an alligator swamp of choices. It was simply that it was presented to me, and I said yes, because it felt like an inspiration to be of service in this way. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm not trying to get anything from you. I am simply in service to you. And when we can get there, when we feel that whatever the choice is, even what sweater to wear, strangely enough, is an act of service, that looking beautiful is an act of service also. Something to surrender to, something to embrace, something to open us to a greater and bigger way of being, which certainly this year and a half of doing Facebook and Instagram lives has taken me to expand my world greatly and meet people from all over the world by doing this. But it would have been easy to choose no. I'm busy. I could have been too busy. I could have felt, well, what do I really get out of this? Is this just an ego trip that I'm doing? All the questions would just come piling in, but they didn't at all. Because right away, I recognized that this was a challenge and that it was something I was meant to do. And I'm so grateful to those who encouraged me and pushed me and support me. So this is how our worlds actually open up. The parent makes a choice. The choice that feels like it has light around it. The choice that feels exciting sometimes, even if there's a lot of buts and what ifs coming back from the mind. See, the parent chooses the private school or the public school. and begins to allow themselves to actually feel good about the choice they've just made. To actually allow that choice to expand in them rather than keeping the other choice, oh, maybe I should have done that, maybe I should have done that. No, to let that go. At least for now. Maybe next year might be a different story. But for now, this is the experience that we are meant to embrace with our whole hearts. Don't make it wrong. Don't allow the noise machine to start throwing negative kinks into the machinery and look for fault and look for something going bad. So yes, coming out of confusion, and you've probably experienced those times that you have. Suddenly you're standing on solid ground instead of having the ground being pulled away from under your feet. Right or wrong? Right or wrong? It's a choice. And what the universe asks us to do with our choices is to live our choice in the best, most honest, most engaged way that we can. The universe asks us to have the experience, even if it's a hard choice, of putting all of our light energy into it, all of our yes, all of our heart, and to remake that choice all the time. If it's an ongoing thing like a marriage or a relationship or a business or a job or a healing of a friendship or a family, no matter what it is, that once the choice is made, we put our life force into it. And that calls in the energetics from the universe, from spirit, that help us walk that piece of our path in integrity and inspiration. Okay, my friends. I hope this message rings true to you. I hope it serves you. We are living in very, very confusing times. The confusion of our individual minds is reflected in a confusion of the collective that doesn't know even how to think of itself. The collective is non-identifiable right now, if you look at it that way. We don't even have a good idea of what it is to be an American, to be any race, to be a sex, to be anything. There's nothing wrong with that. The cards need to go up in the air. Things need to be reevaluated. Choices need to be made. Let's make them from the right place. Okay, thank you, Mahalo, Carol, and everybody. Be at peace. See you a week from Wednesday.